The skyline of Schiedam can be identified from miles away by its 7 giant windmills, which mark the boundaries of the old town centre. These highest windmills of Europe have for ages been connected with the Geneva industry, which brought the town worldwide fame. Most of the town mills of Schiedam were distiller mills and milled the malt for its own Geneva industry. They were built close to the distilleries and malt houses without taking the wind out of the sails of the other mills. In the 18th century, space got cramped on the old town moats, but only a few of them survived the changing times. Nowadays, Schiedam still has 7 town mills left, to which it owes its impressive skyline. They are more than monuments from the past or mere tourist attractions. They all have a dynamic function in Schiedam, and they symbolize modern concepts of sustainability, craftsmanship and quality. The mills bring life to the town and remain the pride of the people of Schiedam. The beginning of the 18th century was an exciting time. Entrepreneurs and distillers expanded their premises. With more malt houses and distilleries, more windmills were needed. The town council recognized this need for new stone-built windmills and gave permission for their construction. Windmill de Kameel, the camel on the north moat of the river Schie, was the first to be built in 1715. It had an entrance for boats in its base, which made it possible to bring sacks of grain and fetch milled products directly to and from the heart of the mill by boat. In those days, water was the main thoroughfare. Today, the river Schie is mainly used for recreational purposes. The Kameel, pulled down in 1868, is now arisen again from the water and plays a role in that new function of the Schiedam canals. The mill may include facilities for boaters staying overnight in Schiedam's town centre. In the last decades of the 18th century, the Geneva industry went through a second period of growth, and again the number of mills had to be extended. The need for milling capacity for the distillers was so vast that the town council had to draw lots to determine the shareholders when Windmill de Palmboom, that is palm tree, was built in 1781. Unfortunately, after this second heyday of the windmills, by the end of the 18th century, things went downhill for the mills of Schiedam. Finally, in the 20th century, there were no more than 5 mills left as relics from the past for the descendants of the hundreds of distillers and dozens of millers. One of these 5 was the Palmboom, of which only the body with 2 stories was left. After a vast and impressive restoration in 1993, the Nieuwe Palmboom, the new palm tree, arose again as a museum mill in the townscape. Since then, numerous people from home and abroad have learned about the history of windmills in Schiedam in this working museum mill. In 2010, a copy of the Palmboom was placed in Madurodam, the miniature city near The Hague. Windmill de Noord, the north, probably dates back from around 1400 as a wooden mill for the bakeries. In 1707 it was replaced by a stone mill that worked for the distilleries. In 1803 it was again replaced by a new one, but in 1937 this was reduced to a so-called pepper pot, a mill tower without its cap and sails. This demise of the Noord marked a low point in the history of the Schiedam town mills. During the Second World War, the Germans used the mill as an observation post. Later, the municipality acquired a body of the Noord in order to restore it. But it took until 1973 before another bag of grain was milled on the wind again. In that year, a restaurant function was added to the mill. One can enjoy a delicious lunch or dinner on the lower floors of this mill. And when the sails are running at a nice speed, one can hear the tinkling of the glasses in the bar. Windmill de Vrijheid, that is freedom, was the first mill with a cast iron wind shaft. The shaft still functions today and is therefore the oldest of its kind in the Netherlands. De Vrijheid was built in 1785 and is by far the best preserved distiller's mill. One recognizes the original layout and the order of the floors on which malt and rye were ground. The malt and the rye, to which in later days corn was added, together make up the main ingredients for the preparation of the famous malt wine of Schiedam, then and now. That's why distiller mills are also called malt mills. Not only were the products that were milled different from those in the bakery mills, the type of enterprise of the distiller mills differed a lot as well. The distiller mills consisted of mill parts that could, like shares in a limited company, freely be traded. The number of shares a distiller had in the milling capacity of the mill was proportional to his number of stills. Not only the decline of the Geneva industry, but also the advent of steam engines made the distiller mills of Schiedam obsolete, and they were partly demolished. The observant walker will recognize some of the locations where the legendary windmill stood in the historic town centre. The outline of one of the first malt mills of the town can, for instance, be seen between Windmills De Vrijheid and windmill De Drie Korenbloemen, the Three Cornflowers. The town is fortunate today in having 7 beautiful windmills that have survived the times. One of them is windmill De Drie Korenbloemen, which dates from 1770, a fine building year. Although this mill soon lost its distiller's function and became a bakery mill in 1814, it is a marker in time, a distiller mill that still looks well on the outskirts of the town centre and is a feast for the eyes, especially on festive days, with decorative flags waving on the foresails. The rich history of the mills in Schiedam also implies that the town's mill builders have a good reputation. Because of their tradition and expertise, the Schiedam mill builders are in demand for the construction and restoration of mills in many other Dutch towns and even far abroad. As we said, windmills are inextricably linked with Schiedam. For the town's inhabitants, they are more than just a familiar sight. When it really matters, the people of Schiedam fight for their mills, as became clear when in 1996 windmill De Walvis, the whale, dating from 1794, fell victim to flames. A fire destroyed the cap and the interior of the mill down to the first floor. After the fire, many spontaneous actions were undertaken to fund the rebuilding of the Walvis. The pride and commitment of the inhabitants of Schiedam made it possible for the mill to run again in 1999. And how? For the products ground by the millstones are in eager demand in the shop on the ground floor of the Walvis. These natural and pure products are used in many a Schiedam kitchen, but they also attract customers from further away who enjoy doing their shopping in the mill shop. The Schiedam mills have kept going through the ages with the wind as their driving force and with craftsmanship that was passed from father to son. The mills have left their mark on the history, but also on the appearance of Schiedam, like windmill De Nolet. This mill was built by the centuries-old distillery of the Nolet family that put it into use in 2006. It's a modern mill built with the appearance of an authentic distiller mill. While the aerodynamic sails fit into the traditional townscape, they are generating electric energy like a modern wind turbine. This mill, reputedly the largest in the world, is special in its proportions and shows a unique combination of traditional craftsmanship and advanced techniques. A mill as a tribute to the historic Geneva industry, but most of all, ready for the future of Schiedam. Clearly visible from the new waterway, the windmills give Schiedam its shape. Both the construction of the Nolet mill and the rebuilding of windmill De Kameel show how much the mills nowadays still mean for the town. The municipality therefore cherishes its mills. Not only in the year 2011, when lots of special activities are taking place around the giant windmills, but also in the future, the windmills will continue to command respect for the history of Schiedam. and the town council will remain closely associated with the reason for the mill's existence. Schiedam will continue to honor its reputation as a mill town, and each mill will keep on telling its own history of Schiedam.